Hello, my name is Arthur, and in the last video we finished up making this quick and ugly tree, and now we're going to do a quick render. So I've done a little bit of reading up to check on camera angles and such, and think I have that figured out. So first off, we're going to delete the light that it begins with, and then move the camera around some. We're going to want to put the camera on a 0 rotation for Z, a 0 rotation for Y, and on X we'll just put it onto a 0 rotation to look at what happens. The default angle of the camera when it's all zeroed out is pointing straight down. Now most documentation for isometric type of games is going to talk about a 30-degree angle. When it's talking about a 30-degree angle, it's talking about 30 degrees off of the x-axis or the y-axis. But when it comes to the camera angle on the z-axis, which is what's going to control that for us in Blender, it's actually, no, it's the x-axis that's going to control our camera. I'm sorry, got confused there. When it comes to that angle, because its default 0 is pointing down, it needs a positive angle of 60. So the 30 angle that most documentation would be talking about is 30 degrees down from this line. See, that's the 30-degree angle there. Yeah, that's a little bit confusing, I guess, but not when you realize the default angle of the camera in Blender. So we're going to put the camera onto an X location of 0, and then Y and Z we'll just play with. Y will back it up. We want to back the camera away and bring it up so that the tree should be about in view. We'll just rough that out. For the camera, we want to set it to orthographic view type, I should say. Orthographic type of camera. Now the orthographic scale is how we will control how big the tree is inside of the frame. Okay, so speaking of the frame, we're going to want to set the image resolution. We're going to use the same resolution as our wall tiles were made. So I'm going to go with 256 by 256. And that folder got changed because I've stopped Blender and saved it. So we'll get that back where it belongs into that folder, except shouldn't really matter much, but okay, so the camera's all set up. Now we just need to look through the camera and frame our picture. So we'll start off with the orthographic scale and get the tree into a scale that should fit. Now, yeah, I'm not really clear on exactly how I should handle the scale of the tree and where the trunk of the tree will enter the ground. Because the way this is, when we lay the tile on in Godot, the tree will be at near the edge of the tile it's sitting on. So I'm not clear if it should be in the middle or something like that. But I'm just going to go with putting it at the bottom and see how that works out for now, because this is largely just testing. So we can lower the tree. That gets us a good amount of resolution. So now we're down to lighting. Let's give some lighting in here. Shift A to add a light. We'll make the light a sun. We'll grab that up, put it somewhere around there. rotate it to point at the tree, and we're going to set its strength to 10. So that's our light. From a top view, we should add a plane. Shift A, mesh, plane. Scale that out and get something for light to bounce off of. Now we need to set that so it won't render. So object properties, visibility, uncheck render. And from here we should be down to render engine. So we're going to go with cycles. We're just going to leave the default render settings. We won't need any more detail for this small of an image. So in film, we have to select transparent to make a transparent background for the image. And in the world settings, ambient occlusion to get that light looking okay. And that should render up fine from this point. So we'll render the image and see what we get. Not sure what the shading will look like, if it'll be particularly compatible with the other images, but I'm not going to worry about that because I'm a little too rusty at Blender, and well, I'm willing to settle for what I get as long as it's reasonable. Yeah, that does look like a reasonable result, and actually with the sun put onto that side, we got a darker shading over here, which is in line with the shading we did with the wall tile. So I'm just going to save this image and call it good enough. So I'm going to save as. That should be going into this file here. I'll call it tree1. Save that. And while we're here, we might as well save it into the Godot file as well. So assets, save as. We'll save this project. That goes right there. Close that down. Open up Godot, tile test. Open up the scene, drop our assets, tree is there. I'm going to add the tree as a tile map as well. Well, I'm not an expert in Godot, so I don't know that this is the right way to go about it, but it seems like an okay way to make assets that are for the map. So I'm just going to go with that. So I'll give it the same tile size as we started off with, 256 by 128. Make it isometric, new tile set. We'll drop in the tree, new tile, and see what we got. See how that looks. So yeah, I'm reasonably happy with that. It's going to build in the wall, I think. Yeah, it builds right in the wall. And that's the consequence of having it on the front edge the way that it is. So that builds right in the corner of each tile. And the size is a little bit large, or not, it depends. Really, it depends on the scale of the character, how everything looks here. So I'm satisfied with this tree. I think it's a pretty successful test. From here, I'm going to try to get some kind of a character animated to be able to walk around and change directions, and probably just something like AI kind of guy that just bumps into walls and stuff. So that'll be my aim. It's going to take a little bit of figuring out how to do that. So we're going to save this scene, and I'm going to jump over to a different project where I've used Blender to create animations in the past. But the animation for isometric is a different animal. It's considerably different than a platformer type of animation. We'll go look at that platformer to get an idea what you can do working from Blender into Godot. So this is a platformer that I did. Any of the characters are animated in Blender, and I'm not sure if I started that in the right place. Started there. Any of the characters were animated in Blender, and the graphics for the first screen were largely done in Photoshop. Then later on I jumped into GIMP with it, so this effort kind of had some different characters to it. In the graphics were a little bit different. So this character has a walk, a jump, and a crawl, I believe. And all these animations are done in Blender, same as the insects. So that'll be kind of the aim I'm looking for. I'll try to, maybe I still have this walk cycle and I can get it figured out for the isometric movement in 8 or 16 directions. I'm not sure which I should go with there. So that's what I'll be working towards, and hopefully I'll be back with a video that deals with making an animation of that type. So until then, take care.